The day the alien ships first appeared in Earth's atmosphere was a day unlike any other. To most of humanity, it seemed like just another ordinary morning. People went about their daily routines, commuting to work, sipping their coffee, and scrolling through social media, unaware of the colossal event unfolding in the skies above. Then came the roar. A low, thunderous sound that seemed to reverberate through the very air. It wasn't the typical noise of an approaching storm. It was something far more ominous. People looked up, puzzled at first, and then a collective gasp echoed through the streets. In the heavens, dozens of sleek, metallic ships descended. Their forms were otherworldly, their silhouettes casting long, eerie shadows over entire cities. The ships had no visible engines, no wings, and no identifiable markings. They hovered for a moment, motionless, before a wave of energy spread out, disintegrating satellites and communications equipment in an instant. Earth was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. On the ground, chaos erupted. Military forces scrambled to respond, but their jets and missiles were useless against the invaders. The ships seemed to phase through the very air, dodging attacks with ease. With their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered, the invaders were seemingly unstoppable. The world watched in a mix of awe and terror as the alien vessels deployed strange creatures onto the streets of major cities. These creatures, tall and imposing, with dark, featureless armor, moved with uncanny precision. They were perfect machines of war, their eyes glowing with an eerie light as they took control of Earth's most strategic locations. Governments declared martial law, but it was too late. The invaders had already claimed victory in the sky and were now securing the planet's major cities with ruthless efficiency. No one knew who they were or where they came from, but it was clear that they saw Earth and its people as insignificant, perhaps even weak. As the alien forces advanced, humanity's first instinct was to retreat. But in the chaos, a small group of survivors, soldiers, scientists, and civilians, managed to gather in secret. They shared a singular belief: Earth wasn't going to be conquered without a fight. They knew humanity was underestimating its true strength. The alien invaders had made a fatal mistake. They assumed humans were weak, and that assumption would be their downfall. Meanwhile, deep within Earth's governments, a resistance was born. But they weren't armed with advanced alien weapons. They were armed with the one thing the invaders had never accounted for: human ingenuity. They quickly realized that the invaders' technology, though incredibly advanced, had one glaring flaw. It was built to fight other civilizations of equal or greater technological sophistication. Humanity, in its raw, unrefined nature, had been overlooked. And that would be their greatest advantage. In the shadows, scientists worked feverishly, trying to understand the alien technology. They reverse-engineered weapons, repurposed old military equipment, and found new ways to strike back. The world rallied together in a way it never had before. The alien invaders underestimated the power of humanity's unity. They thought humans were divided, incapable of true cooperation. What they didn't realize was that when pushed to the brink, humanity would stop at nothing to defend its home. The first sign of resistance came in the form of a simple, yet symbolic act. A small band of human soldiers, armed only with conventional weapons, managed to infiltrate one of the alien ships. They planted explosives in key systems, causing the ship to crash in the middle of a major city. It was a small victory, but it sent a clear message to the invaders: humanity was not weak. And then came the broadcasts. At first, the invaders didn't understand the significance of the message. Humanity was not just fighting back, it was communicating, organizing, and uniting on a global scale. In an effort to demoralize their enemies, the resistance used the aliens' own technology against them. Hackers broadcasted a defiant message from the remnants of Earth's communication systems. Asterisk, you thought we were weak, but now, you will know the true strength of humanity. Asterisk. It was the spark that ignited the fire of resistance. The invaders had been wrong, and they would soon find out just how wrong they were. Humanity was not weak. It was resilient, resourceful, and above all, determined. The battle for Earth had just begun. The aliens, accustomed to easy victories and complacent civilizations, would soon learn the hard way that underestimating humanity was a mistake they would never live to regret. The crash of the alien ship in New York had been a game-changer. It wasn't just the destruction, it was the signal. The spark that ignited a fire within the hearts of humanity. People everywhere began to rise up. The world that had been fractured and divided just days ago now felt the unity that only true desperation could inspire. The alien invaders, though technologically superior, had made the gravest of errors in their assumptions about Earth and its people. They had not accounted for human willpower, for the ingenuity buried within the chaos of the everyday. Across the globe, pockets of resistance sprang into action. Governments that had been overwhelmed by the alien onslaught scrambled to regroup. Cities that once stood as symbols of human progress became battlegrounds. Humanity's first instinct had been to run, to hide, but now they had learned, running wouldn't save them. Fighting back would. In the heart of London, a group of scientists working with reverse-engineered alien technology discovered something that would change the course of the war. The aliens' shields were nearly impenetrable, but after studying the wreckage from the New York crash, they realized that there was a flaw in the energy field that the invaders had overlooked. It was a tiny gap, invisible to the naked eye, but it was there. A weak spot, hidden in plain sight. A team of military experts was quickly assembled. Their mission was simple, yet impossibly difficult: infiltrate an alien stronghold, use the newly discovered weakness to disable their defenses, and sabotage their operations. It was a dangerous, nearly suicidal mission, but the men and women who volunteered were determined. If humanity could find a way to hit the aliens where it hurt, they would strike back with everything they had. In Paris, an underground network of hackers worked tirelessly to disrupt the invaders' communication systems. They had learned from the mistakes of the past. The aliens had assumed they could control Earth's network infrastructure with ease, but humanity's brilliant minds were using their own technology against them. It wasn't just about hacking into computers. It was about broadcasting the truth: humanity was not a weak species. They were resourceful, adaptable, and, when cornered, they became a force that could not be contained. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the first human victory against the aliens came in the form of a surprising alliance. The alien invaders, who had assumed their dominance was uncontested, had neglected to account for the diversity of Earth's forces. Each nation, each culture, brought something unique to the fight. The military tactics of the East blended with the industrial ingenuity of the West. Former enemies set aside their differences to face the true threat. The turning point came when the resistance, using the newly discovered weak spot in the aliens' shields, launched a coordinated strike on one of the invaders' primary motherships hovering over Tokyo. The operation was nothing short of a miracle. After weeks of preparation, a combined force of military personnel, scientists, and hackers successfully infiltrated the mothership's defenses. The moment they triggered the weakness, the ship's shields faltered, and for the first time, a human missile found its mark. The blast was massive, sending shockwaves through the mothership. The resistance watched in awe as the alien ship exploded in a fiery inferno, debris falling from the sky like burning confetti. It was only one ship, but it was enough to send a message. The alien forces had underestimated humanity's resilience. They thought Earth was weak, defenseless against their superior technology. They were wrong. As the first victory rippled across the globe, humanity began to rally behind the idea of resistance. Across continents, people took up arms, not just with weapons, but with ideas, with innovation, with unity. They saw the alien invaders for what they truly were: conquerors, yes, but not invincible. They were like all those who had come before them, overconfident, complacent, and blind to the spirit of those they sought to subjugate. Back at the Resistance's command center in the ruins of Washington, D.C., the leaders of humanity's coalition gathered to plan the next phase of the war. It wasn't just about taking back Earth. It was about showing the universe that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. "We've made our point," said General Ashford, the leader of the human military efforts. "But this is just the beginning. They think we're weak because we don't fight like they do. They don't understand the one thing they're missing: we fight for something bigger than ourselves. We fight for our home, for each other. The meeting room fell silent as everyone processed his words. There was no mistaking it now. The aliens had made a fatal error. They had awakened something deep within humanity that would be their downfall. The battle for Earth was far from over. But now, the invaders would learn that they weren't fighting a planet of weaklings. They were fighting a species that had fought its way from the bottom of the food chain to the top. And humanity would not go down without a fight. The explosion that shattered the alien mothership over Tokyo marked more than just a victory for humanity, it signaled the beginning of an irreversible shift in the war. The invaders, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, now found themselves grappling with a force they had underestimated, Earth's unyielding will to survive. It was no longer just about humans fighting to reclaim their home, it was about proving to the invaders that they had misjudged the very nature of humanity. But there was more at play than just the growing human resistance. In the shadows, a silent power moved. While the military leaders and the public focused on direct conflict, a covert network of individuals, known only as the Unseen Hand, had been quietly shaping events behind the scenes. The Unseen Hand was a secret organization of Earth's greatest minds, spanning across every field of expertise, from hacking to biology, physics, and even linguistics. They had been preparing for an invasion long before the alien ships had first appeared in the sky. This network of experts had studied alien civilizations for years, secretly gathering intelligence on extraterrestrial technologies, their military tactics, and even their psychology. The invasion of Earth was not a sudden event, it was a culmination of years of quiet research and planning. Dr. Evelyn Trask, a brilliant cryptographer and linguist, was one of the leading members of the Unseen Hand. She had cracked several of the alien communication codes in the aftermath of the invasion, uncovering their military strategies and hidden weaknesses. One thing was clear from the intercepted transmissions: the invaders considered Earth an afterthought, a footnote in the vastness of the universe. They thought they could simply crush humanity underfoot like a pestilent insect. They had not expected humanity to rise up, to adapt, and to learn their tactics so quickly. It was this intelligence, collected from intercepted signals and dissected alien technology, that gave the resistance its edge. The Unseen Hand had already mapped out a plan for dealing with the alien forces, and now they were ready to put it into motion. Dr. Trask and her team had uncovered something extraordinary, an alien artifact buried deep within one of the crashed ships in the Antarctic region. The artifact, a crystalline device of unknown purpose, had baffled the alien invaders. However, the Unseen Hand believed it could be the key to turning the tide of war. They speculated that it might allow humans to not only disrupt the aliens' technology, but to control it. As global resistance movements continued to grow, the Unseen Hand quietly began mobilizing. They knew that retrieving the artifact would be no easy task. It was hidden in a frozen wasteland, protected by a fortified alien base. But they also knew that if they succeeded, they would gain a significant advantage over the invaders. Meanwhile, the alien commanders were becoming increasingly frustrated. The destruction of their mothership had sent shockwaves through their ranks, and they began to question whether the conquest of Earth would be as easy as they had once believed. But despite their doubts, they continued to press forward, believing that the sheer might of their forces could still overwhelm humanity. However, unknown to the invaders, Earth's military forces had already begun implementing the strategies devised by the Unseen Hand. Using a combination of alien technology and human ingenuity, the resistance launched a series of surprise attacks on the invaders' supply lines. They exploited the aliens' over-reliance on their advanced weaponry, targeting their weaker infrastructure and creating chaos within their ranks. It was guerrilla warfare on an unprecedented scale, and the invaders found themselves unable to adjust quickly enough. In the midst of this turmoil, Dr. Trask and her team of elite operatives prepared for their most dangerous mission yet, a covert assault on the alien base in Antarctica. The plan was intricate, relying on careful deception and the element of surprise. They would infiltrate the base, retrieve the artifact, and escape before the aliens even realized they had been there. But even with all their preparation, the operation carried a level of risk that no one could fully account for. Dr. Trask stood before the team, looking each member in the eye. The weight of the mission was clear, but so was the resolve. She wasn't just leading a team to retrieve an artifact, she was leading them to give humanity the tools it needed to win. "We can't afford to fail," she said. "If we succeed, we'll have a weapon that can turn the entire war in our favor. But if we fail, it could be the end of everything." The team nodded in unison. They had all heard the stories, the tales of the alien invaders' destruction, of cities reduced to rubble, of families torn apart. But they had also heard the message humanity was sending: "We are not weak." As the team prepared to leave for the Antarctic base, the Resistance's leaders saw the dawn of a new era. They knew the battle was far from over, but the hope that had once seemed so distant was now within their grasp. Humanity had fought back, and now, they were going to take the fight to the invaders' doorstep. The frozen wasteland of Antarctica was as hostile as the alien invaders themselves. The air was biting and thin, the landscape an endless stretch of ice and snow. The cold was suffocating, but for Dr. Evelyn Trask and her team, there was no time to waste. Their mission was to retrieve the alien artifact hidden within one of the most heavily fortified bases on Earth, a base the invaders had established after their first wave of assaults. And with each passing hour, the urgency of their task grew. Inside their heavily armored transport, the team huddled in silence, each member lost in their own thoughts. They had been briefed on the importance of the mission, but now that they were so close, the reality of what they were about to do hit them all at once. If they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The invaders had already begun consolidating their power across major continents. If they could reinforce their position on Earth with the alien technology at their disposal, humanity would be doomed. 30 minutes until insertion, Captain Luis Garza, the team's lead operative, said over the comms. He was a seasoned soldier, his face a map of scars and grit. There was no fear in his voice, only the calm authority of someone who knew the stakes. Dr. Trask glanced at the readout on the screen beside her. It was a map of the alien base, a facility buried deep under the ice, its location discovered only through months of painstaking research. The base was surrounded by a network of automated defense systems, capable of detecting the slightest movement in the area. If they triggered an alarm, their chances of survival would be slim. But the team wasn't just relying on stealth. They had one major advantage that the invaders had not anticipated: knowledge of their own technology. The unseen hand had infiltrated the alien network weeks prior, using their hacked communications to monitor the base's operations. They had figured out a way to temporarily disable the security systems without triggering any alarms, but it would only work for a short window of time. "We stick to the plan," Dr. Trask said, her voice steady. "In and out in 30 minutes. No deviation. We get the artifact, and we get out." The transport touched down on the icy surface with a slight jolt. The doors hissed open, and the team stepped out into the cold, their breath visible in the frigid air. The base loomed ahead, an imposing structure of alien metal, partially buried in the ice. The only sign of life was the hum of energy flowing through the complex, far below the surface. They had no idea what kind of horrors lay within, but they couldn't afford to hesitate. "Deploy the cloaking devices," Garza ordered. Each member activated a small, wrist-mounted device that rendered them nearly invisible to the base's sensors. It wasn't perfect, but it would be enough to get them past the first line of defense. They moved swiftly, crossing the desolate landscape with practiced precision. The perimeter was guarded by a series of automated drones, intelligent machines programmed to patrol the area. Dr. Trask's team had anticipated this and used the interference to their advantage, cutting off the drones' access to their primary communication channels. They moved through the outer barriers unnoticed, their cloaked forms ghosting across the ice. As they approached the entrance to the base, Garza signaled the team to halt. The walls of the facility seemed to pulse with an alien energy, and the cold metal felt alive with potential danger. They had no illusions about what awaited them inside. The artifact they sought wasn't just a weapon, it was the key to turning the tide of war. The invaders knew its value, which was why the base was so heavily guarded. The team breached the outer doors with ease, using a specialized tool to slice through the advanced locking mechanisms. As the doors slowly opened, the acrid smell of alien technology flooded the air. They stepped into the heart of the beast. Inside, the base was like something out of a nightmare. Walls lined with dark, metallic panels, strange glowing symbols etched into the surfaces, and machines that hummed with unknown power. The entire facility had been designed with one purpose in mind: to house the invaders' most valuable assets. And at the very core of the base, locked away in a containment chamber, was the artifact. The journey to the artifact was treacherous. The team encountered alien defenses at every turn: laser grids, automated turrets, and strange traps designed to eliminate intruders. But with each obstacle, the team adapted. They used their knowledge of the alien technology to disable the systems one by one. Dr. Trask's linguistic expertise proved invaluable, as she was able to decipher the alien symbols that controlled the security protocols, allowing the team to bypass nearly every defense. Finally, they reached the chamber. The artifact was suspended in a field of blue light, its crystalline form pulsating with energy. It was beautiful, alien in every sense of the word, and yet it felt somehow familiar. As if it belonged here, on Earth. "Doctor, take a look at this," Garza said, his voice a mix of awe and caution. Dr. Trask stepped forward, carefully examining the artifact through the transparent barrier. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen," she murmured. "But I think we can use it. This could be the key to breaking their defenses, maybe even turning their technology against them." With steady hands, she began the procedure to disable the energy field and extract the artifact. The seconds stretched into eternity as the team held their breath, waiting for the inevitable alarms that would signal their discovery. But nothing happened. The field deactivated, and Dr. Trask carefully retrieved the artifact. "We've got it. Let's move." As they made their way back to the transport, the team knew they had just secured humanity's greatest hope. The artifact could be their trump card, the weapon they needed to break the alien invaders' hold on Earth. But even as they exhaled in relief, they knew the hardest part was yet to come. The invaders were going to notice the missing artifact. And when they did, they would come after them with everything they had. As Dr. Trask and her team made their way back to the transport, their hearts raced with a mix of exhilaration and dread. The artifact was now in their hands, but they couldn't afford to celebrate. The aliens were aware of every inch of their territory, and it was only a matter of time before they discovered that their most precious asset had been taken. The journey back to the extraction point felt unnervingly calm. The snow continued to fall in thick, soft layers, and the once ominous alien base was now just a distant, dark silhouette against the backdrop of the frozen landscape. But the quiet was deceptive. The weight of what they had stolen hung heavily in the air. "We need to move faster," Garza said, his voice tense, as he scanned the horizon. "The clock's ticking. They'll be on us the second they realize what's gone." Dr. Trask nodded grimly. "We need to make it back to the Resistance's main base. They'll know what to do with the artifact. But if the aliens catch up to us first?" The unspoken fear hung in the air. If the aliens catch up to us, we'll lose everything. As the team moved quickly toward the extraction point, an unsettling thought gnawed at Dr. Trask's mind. She had studied alien technology for years, but the artifact was unlike anything she had ever encountered. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a source of power, something capable of manipulating the very fabric of the aliens' energy fields. If humanity could harness its power, they could not only defeat the invaders, they could change the course of history. But would they even be able to unlock its potential in time? Back at the Resistance's main command center, a small, but growing coalition of nations had already begun preparing for the next phase of the war. The victory at Tokyo had reignited hope, but humanity knew it needed more than just hope to win. They needed resources, strategy, and above all, a plan to deal with the overwhelming might of the alien forces. "We've had a few successes," General Ashford said, his voice a steady anchor amidst the rising tension. "But we've only just begun to understand their technology. The artifact could change everything, but we need more than just a few scientists to figure it out. We need all hands on deck. The tension in the room was palpable. There was no time for delay. Every moment counted now. The alien motherships were regrouping, strengthening their hold on Earth's most critical locations. Their reinforcements were on the way, and they were getting more organized by the hour. If humanity didn't act quickly, they could be overwhelmed once again. Back in Antarctica, the team finally reached the extraction point, an old, abandoned facility hidden within the icy expanse. As they prepared to board the transport, Garza's instincts flared. Something felt wrong. He didn't have time to think it through before the first explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet. The shockwave sent them sprawling. Dr. Trask's world spun wildly as the transport's exterior ruptured, sending shards of ice and debris flying. The sky above them split open as alien drones descended in perfect formation, their energy weapons primed and ready. They had been waiting for them. They knew, Garza hissed, pulling Dr. Trask to her feet as they scrambled for cover. They've been tracking us since we left the base. The team opened fire, but it was futile. The aliens' drones were too fast, their shields too powerful. Every shot seemed to bounce off them with ease. They were surrounded, and the ice beneath them groaned in protest as the alien forces closed in. Go! Dr. Trask shouted, her eyes wide with fear. Get to the secondary transport, now! The team fought their way to the secondary transport, but as they moved, the weight of the situation settled on them. The artifact, the key to humanity's survival, was their only hope. If they lost it now, everything they had fought for would be lost. Garza was the first to board the secondary transport, with the rest of the team following closely behind. They sealed the hatch just as the drones made their final approach. The transport shot into the air, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma blasts. But as they rose, Dr. Trask couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The artifact was still intact, but the aliens now knew they were no longer invulnerable. Humanity had struck back, and they were determined to make the invaders pay for underestimating them. The battle was shifting, but the enemy had one advantage: they were not just fighting to conquer a planet, they were fighting for survival, and that made them more dangerous than ever. Back at the Resistance base, the message from the recovery team was already on its way. It was short and to the point. Asterisk, we've got it. But they know, asterisk. General Ashford was already preparing for the next phase. The aliens had lost their advantage in underestimating humanity's ability to fight back, but they weren't about to give up the planet without a fight. And now that they knew Earth wasn't just a planet to be conquered, it was a world to be protected, humanity's resolve had hardened. We've got one shot, Ashford said. We use the artifact, and we strike them where it hurts. This is our chance to take the war to their doorstep. We show them that Earth is not weak. They will regret underestimating us. The next few days were a blur of frantic preparations. The Resistance's brightest minds worked day and night, poring over the alien artifact. They didn't have all the answers, but they had something invaluable: hope, determination, and an unbreakable will to survive. The tide of war was about to shift in humanity's favor, but the final battle would not be fought in the icy fields of Antarctica. It would be fought at the heart of the alien forces, on their home ground, where their greatest strength would be their downfall. The artifact hummed quietly on the table, a shimmering mass of crystalline energy that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Dr. Trask and the team stood around it in the command center, the Resistance's last bastion of hope. The base had been fortified, but the atmosphere was thick with urgency. Outside, the alien ships could be seen in the sky, their numbers multiplying by the day. Humanity's forces were gathering, but so were the invaders, and the war was escalating with each passing hour. Dr. Trask had spent countless hours examining the artifact, using every ounce of knowledge she had gained over the years to decode its purpose. It was clear now, this was no ordinary weapon. It was a nexus of power, capable of manipulating energy fields at an unprecedented level. The invaders had built their technology to harness the energy of stars, to control the very fabric of the universe. But what they didn't realize was that the artifact could do the same, and it could do it better. humanity had the key to their defeat. But unlocking its full potential wasn't going to be easy. The artifact was both a weapon and a defense mechanism, designed not only to destroy but to protect. The aliens had shielded its true power with layers of complex encryption, and every time Dr. Trask thought she had made progress, the artifact seemed to grow more resistant, like it was testing her. Dr. Trask, General Ashford's voice broke through her thoughts, we've received word from the field. The invaders are preparing for a full-scale assault on the Resistance stronghold. We have to act, now. She looked up at him, her brow furrowed in concentration. I'm not sure we're ready. The artifact is, it's still unstable. If we use it without fully understanding it. We don't have the luxury of time, Ashford interrupted. We either strike them now or we risk losing everything. The resistance is already spread thin. If we wait, they'll break through. Dr. Trask hesitated for a moment, but she knew the reality, there was no other choice. The artifact might be humanity's only hope for victory, but they had to take the risk. The invaders weren't going to wait for them to prepare. Prepare the launch, Dr. Trask finally said, her voice resolute. We'll make this work. It's time we show them that humanity doesn't just survive, we fight back. The Resistance's forces, a motley group of soldiers, scientists, engineers, and volunteers, gathered on the front lines. Their eyes were filled with the same burning resolve, their hearts steeled for the final battle. They had already faced unimaginable odds and had somehow managed to survive, but now they were about to face the full brunt of the alien forces. The alien motherships, each the size of a city, hovered ominously overhead, casting long shadows over the land. Thousands of alien drones swarmed like a deadly cloud, their energy weapons crackling with lethal intent. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Dr. Trask and her team boarded the command ship, the artifact securely in hand. They were not going to fight with guns or bombs, not this time. They had something far more powerful. The plan was simple, get the artifact into position and trigger its full power. If it worked, they could disable the alien motherships and turn the tide of war in humanity's favor. As they made their approach to the alien fleet, the Resistance soldiers provided cover, launching everything they had at the invading forces. Explosions erupted in the sky, sending shockwaves through the battlefield, but it was clear, the invaders weren't slowing down. They had brought everything they had to Earth, and they intended to crush humanity once and for all. The command ship made a daring pass beneath the motherships, its engines roaring as they tore through the sky. The aliens, unaware of the true threat bearing down on them, sent their drones to intercept the ship, but the Resistance fighters held them off just long enough. Inside the command center, Dr. Trask positioned the artifact at the heart of the ship's main console. The crystalline device hummed louder now, a vibration that resonated through her entire body. Her heart pounded as she activated the sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. The artifact remained inert, almost as if it were waiting. And then the air seemed to ripple. Suddenly, a blinding surge of energy shot out from the artifact, cascading across the sky in a wave of dazzling light. The alien motherships, massive and invulnerable just moments before, began to tremble. The energy fields surrounding them flickered, and then, collapsed. The ships shuddered violently, their systems overloaded, and their shields flickered out like candles snuffed by a breeze. It was working. The alien fleet began to fall apart, one ship after another succumbing to the power of the artifact. The invaders, in their hubris, had never anticipated that humanity would be able to wield such a force against them. The artifact had breached their defenses, cutting through their advanced technology like a hot knife through butter. The once dominant alien force was now in chaos. But the battle was not over. The aliens had one last trump card, their final weapon, a colossal warship that had remained in reserve, hidden from the Resistance's radar. The warship emerged from the clouds, its engines glowing ominously as it prepared to strike. The Resistance was already battered, its forces spread thin. But Dr. Trask knew there was only one way to end this, the artifact. The team was already setting the course, and Dr. Trask, with her pulse racing, made the call. Prepare to fire everything we've got. With a final, desperate push, the Resistance launched their last assault, focusing the artifact's energy on the warship. The beam from the artifact's core ripped through the sky, striking the warship dead center. The alien ship exploded in a cataclysmic burst of energy, the shockwave sweeping through the remaining invader ships. The battle was won. The dust settled, and humanity stood victorious. The alien invaders, broken and scattered, had been forced to retreat. Earth was no longer just a prize to be conquered, it was a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of its people. Dr. Trask stood on the balcony of the Resistance's command center, gazing out at the sky. The clouds were parting, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the sun shone through. Humanity had won, but the scars of the war would last for generations. The message was clear: Earth was not weak. Humanity had not only survived, it had prevailed. The victory had been hard-won. The alien invaders, their once formidable fleet reduced to rubble, had retreated from Earth's orbit, their remaining forces scattering like leaves in the wind. The Resistance, those who had survived, gathered in the war-torn cities, unsure whether to rejoice or mourn the staggering cost of their triumph. Earth was free, but it was a freedom born from fire and sacrifice. In the aftermath of the battle, the Resistance leaders convened in a war council. Dr. Trask, still feeling the weight of what she had unleashed with the artifact, sat among them, her thoughts a whirlwind of triumph and uncertainty. The alien fleet had been decimated, but their technology was far beyond what humanity could fully comprehend. The war had ended, but the true implications of their victory were only beginning to take shape. "We did it," General Ashford said, his voice steady but carrying the exhaustion of 1,000 sleepless nights. "But the work isn't over. The invaders may have retreated, but we need to be ready for their return. And when they do, we need to be prepared, truly prepared." Dr. Trask nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of the artifact she had carefully placed on the table. It was now an object of fascination, a weapon that had turned the tide of battle. But it was also a mystery, one that humanity had yet to fully unravel. "We've unlocked a fraction of its potential," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This artifact, it's not just a weapon. It's a conduit of power. If we can learn to harness it, we can rebuild. But it will take time. The technology, it's far more advanced than anything we've ever seen." A scientist from the back of the room, one of Dr. Trask's colleagues, spoke up. "If we can reverse engineer their tech, build on it, perhaps even combine it with our own." "No," General Ashford cut him off sharply. "This isn't about becoming like them. It's about ensuring that what happened to us, to our world, never happens again. We will rebuild, but not in their image." There was a silence that followed, and for a moment, the weight of what had been lost seemed to hang in the air like a heavy fog. Lives had been lost, entire cities had been devastated. But they had won. They had fought back. And now, the world was beginning to heal. Dr. Trask turned her attention back to the artifact. "The key to defeating them wasn't just the weapon," she murmured. "It was understanding them. Their weaknesses. Their assumptions. They thought we were weak, but we outsmarted them. That's what gave us the upper hand. That's why we won." Ashford's eyes softened slightly. "The rest of the galaxy won't make that mistake again. Humanity's place in the stars is no longer a question. It's a certainty." Weeks later, Earth began the long process of recovery. The scars of the war were still fresh, but there was a renewed sense of purpose in every nation. The global leaders came together, putting aside old differences for the first time in centuries, working side by side to rebuild what had been lost. And then, on the day of Earth's first new space launch since the war, Dr. Trask stood at the launch pad, watching as the rocket, carrying humanity's next-generation exploratory ship, ascended into the sky. The first of many. Humanity had sent a message to the stars, "We are not weak. We are not just survivors. We are warriors, and we will explore, we will conquer, and we will protect." The alien artifact was now in the hands of scientists and engineers who were determined to unlock its true potential. But for Dr. Trask, the most important lesson was this: the artifact had shown them something that no technology could ever truly define. It had shown humanity's true strength, the strength to adapt, to learn, and to fight back when all seemed lost. "We didn't just survive the invasion," she whispered to herself, watching the rocket disappear into the horizon. "We thrived." The future of humanity was no longer defined by its past or the shadow of the invaders. It was defined by a new era, an era of exploration, strength, and unyielding determination. No longer would Earth be a footnote in the history of the universe. Humanity had proved its worth. And the galaxy would never forget.